This is Akashvani. Good evening, listeners. In our weekly program in English Tonight, we bring to you a literary talk titled The Relevance of Soyinka'S, The Lion and the Jewel in Today's World, from Soyinka'S, The Lion and the Jewel. The talk is delivered by Dr.V.Mainar, Assistant Professor, Department of English, DG VAISHNAV College.
Hello all, I'm Dr. V.Mainar. It's a great honor to speak on the topic, the relevance of Soyinka'S, the lion and the jewel in today's world. As we gather to explore literature not just as an art form but as a mirror of society, we find in Soyinka'S play a living, breathing commentary on cultural conflict, gender roles, colonial legacy, and the challenge of modernity. Though written in 1959, The Lion and the Jewel resonates even more today than it did at the time of its writing. Wole Soyinka, Africa's first Nobel laureate in literature, is a dramatist, poet, and political activist whose works often deal with the conflict between tradition and modernity. The Lion and the Jewel is one of his earliest plays, set in fictional Yoruba village of Ilunole. The play revolves around three main characters: Baroka, Lakunle, and Sidi. Baroka is a traditional village chief who has been treated as a lion, Lakunle the western educated school teacher, whereas Sidi the village girl who has been admired for her beauty is treated as jewel. The plot revolves around a romantic and ideological conflict. Who will win Sidi's heart, the modern Lakunle or the traditional Baroka? But beneath this example, romantic triangle lies a complex examination of post-colonial African identity. The play Lion the Jewel deals with various themes. One of the common themes which has been identified in the play is the clash between tradition and modernity. Lakunle, who represents Western ideals, mocks local customs, including the bride price, polygamy, and traditional dress. He says, "To pay the price would be to buy a heifer of the market stall. You would be my chattel, my mere property." Lakunle rejects tradition in favor of modernity, yet he does so with a sense of superiority and condescendence. This mirrors today post-colonial dilemma where societies in the global south grapple with the influence of Western norms on indigenous cultures. Even today, in many African and Asian communities, questions persist. Should we preserve our customs or modernize them? Can we embrace education technology without losing our identity? Baroka, on the other hand, symbolizes adaptable tradition. He is not a stubborn old man, but clever chief who knows how to absorb elements of change to maintain his power. He tricks Sidi, seduces her not just with charm, but with a deep understanding of her desires, both traditional and modern. In today's context, Baroka's pragmatism may be seen in leaders or institutions that find ways to incorporate innovation without destroying their roots. And another modern problem which has been discussed in the play called Lion the Jewel is representation of gender and power. A central question the play raises is the role of women in society. Sidi, though intelligent and assertive, becomes pawn in the game between Lakunle and Baroka. Lakunle says, "Women have smaller brains than men. That's why they are called the weaker sex." The sexist view, ironically expressed by the modern Lakunle, shows us how misogyny can transcend both traditional and modern spaces. Baroka, though charming and wise, uses manipulation to win Sidi, culminating in a deceptive seduction. In today's world, the issues of women empowerment, consent, and objectification are central to the global discourse. Sidi is admired primarily for her beauty. Her worth is tied to how she appears in photographs, an eerily familiar notion in our social media age. We see influencers, often young women, judged by likes, shares, and appearances, rather than by intelligence, leadership, or character. Soyinka invites us to reflect, how far have we come in truly empowering women? Are we still in a world where beauty is power and power is still male? And when you look at this themes, then another problem which has been discussed in this play is the role of education. As everybody knows, there is a power for education. Lakule's character also brings into focus the role of education in shaping identity. He believes that Western education will solve all problems. I have read of cultures and I see that progress is everything, but his knowledge is superficial. He parrots colonial ideologies and fails to communicate with his own people. His rejection of bride price is not based on gender equity but on imported ideas he barely understands, which can be referred to Indian context also. In the concept of bride price, which is totally opposite in India, where here the women have to pay the price for the groom, that is in the form of dowry. This reflects the modern issue of cultural alienation. Today, many youth educated in urban settings feel disconnected from their ancestral roots. In Africa, Asia, and indigenous communities globally, education is both a tool of empowerment and alienation. The challenge remains: how do we decolonize education? How do we build a curriculum that respects tradition while promoting critical thinking and equality? Well, Olay Soyinka'S The Play, Lion the Jewel, also deals with the question of media, identity, and the selfie culture which has been followed everywhere. An often overlooked but deeply relevant moment in the play is when a foreign photographer takes Siddhi's picture, which is then published in a magazine. Suddenly she becomes aware of her beauty, power, and influence. The stranger took my beauty and placed it in the public eye. This can be interpreted as an early commentary on the impact of media. As you all aware of that, today's media is loaded with a lot of pictures where our likes and dislikes decides our happiness. In today's context, this aligns with how selfies and digital imagery influence our sense of self-worth. Cities are transformed by the gaze of the West. This resonates with how people today often measure their success, beauty, or relevance through external validation, likes, comments, and follows. Today's youngsters also getting into the social media where their pictures which they post in the social media as likes and dislikes decides their happiness and everyday life, which has been connected with a character called Siddhi in the play Lion the Jewel. Then Olay Soyinka analyzes the political allegory and leadership. Baroka and World Lion is a metaphor for traditional African leadership. He is cunning, shrewd, and political savvy. He outwits Lakunle and even the modern systems trying to bring railways to the village only to delay it for selfish reasons. This raises the question, what kind of leadership do we need today? Olay Soyinka's play deals not only with leadership skills and how a leader has to think in a society where Western influences are occupying our mind. Baroka's actions symbolize leaders who pretend to embrace change but manipulate to hold one onto power, something we see in modern politics across the globe, from pseudo-democracies to hybrid authoritarian systems. Soyinka subtle critics those who fear progress not because it threatens tradition but because it threatens power structure. This play, when you read this, you will analyze and as well as understand the power structure, how it can corrupt the people and how it can delay the new things which comes to the place. Because Baroka is a man who doesn't say he doesn't accept it, whereas he says he delays the progress. Why? Because he is afraid of modern thinking. And another problem which has been discussed in the play Olay Soyinka's Lion the Jewel is cultural dialogue and cultural erasure. Another critical aspect of the play is its dialogue between cultures. Soyinka does not promote either tradition or modernity as superior. Rather, he suggests that both must coexist, but the coexistence must be thoughtful and respectful. The question of keeping any one in our mind arises again and again because of the influence of Western culture. In today's generation, one would not be able to take it up, any one culture or both in their mind. They are often confused Their mind is like a cat on the wall. They are not able to choose which one is right. In a globalized world, there is a real fear of cultural homogenization. Every culture has been diminishing because of the Western influence. But what happens to our local dance, oral storytelling, or indigenous languages? Soyinka's illusion may be fictional, but its concerns are universal. The play matters a lot in today's context. Why? Because it explores universal tensions between past and future, self and society, freedom and structure. It confronts gender dynamics that are still unresolved today. It questions education not just as a tool of knowledge but as a force of ideology. It anticipates the impact of media, which has only grown stronger. And it warns us about the danger of ignoring roots while also resisting blind traditionalism. Ole Soyinka has used the character Siddhi. The jewel is initially seen as an object of beauty and desire. While she shows moments of independence, her choices are ultimately influenced by societal expectations and manipulations. The play invites us to reflect on how far women's autonomy has progressed. Despite advances, women worldwide still face patriarchal systems, objectification, and limited agency in decision making. The play encourages dialogue on empowering women through education and self awareness, not just beauty. Baroka uses cunning and manipulation to maintain control over his domain and win Sadi. His tactics reflect how traditional authority often uses psychological and cultural tools to maintain dominance. This mirrors how political or traditional leaders sometimes resist change through charm, propaganda, or manipulation of public sentiment. It also raises questions about how power is gained and sustained in various social structures. Lakunle represents the educated elite who rejects traditional values without fully understanding or respecting them. His character shows that education alone does not guarantee wisdom or cultural sensitivity. In many societies, especially developing ones, there is a growing gap between formally educated and those who hold traditional knowledge. The play suggests that true progress requires dialogue and mutual respect between these groups. Soyinka does not give us answers, but give us tools, satire, symbolism, and storytelling to engage with the questions ourselves. In today's world, where identity politics, cultural confusion, and gender debates dominate headlines, the short, witty, and powerful play reminds us that we are not the first to face such struggles, and that literature remains one of our greatest guides through them. I remember the lines of William Faulkner when I read it. The past is never dead. It is not even past. Thank you.
You just heard to a literary talk by Dr. V.Mainar, Assistant Professor, Department of English, D.G. Vaishnav College, on the relevance of Soyinka'S, the lion and the jewel in today's world. This program came to you from the studios of Akashvani, Chennai.